Hi, my name is Erin from the Sipping on Some Crime podcast, and I wanted to take a moment to tell you about Sandra Horwath, who vanished from her Ann Arbor, Michigan home in October of 1973. Sandy, or Sandra as she is affectionately called, was known to be a loving mother who was patient and kind with all three of her daughters who were close in age. Sandy's daughter, Robin, has a vivid memory of her mother who was always well put together and refined. As a mother, she never yelled at them, and her children truly felt secure and safe with her. In 1973, Sandy, 33, and the girl's father had been divorced for a few years. They had it arranged that Sandy would take the girls through the week, and their father would pick them up on the weekends and take them to Detroit, where he resided. Robin says she remembered in those first few years of divorce that her mother lived in student housing, and she can remember going out and sledding with her mother in the winter and spending time with her mom in the summer as her mother sprayed sun into each of the girls' hair. And she was always playing music anywhere she went. Looking back now, Robin can see how much effort that her mother put into dressing the three of them. When she looks over pictures, she can see how absolutely cute they all looked. Sandy was a very involved mother who really enjoyed being with her kids. The night before Sandy vanished, her and the girls had made a trip to a local mall, the Briarwood Mall, that the family often frequented. Sandy and the girls would arrive home around 8:30 p.m., and around 9:30 p.m., Sandy would receive a call from a male friend. At 10 p.m., Sandy would be getting the girls ready for bed when Robin would ask her mother if she could please spend the night with her in her bed. She loved to snuggle with her mom whenever she could. But this night, Sandy told her no, and she tucked Robin into her bed. That would be the last time that Robin ever saw her mother. The next morning, October 1st, 1973, Robin, the middle child, was the first awake. She would walk into her mother's room and find it empty. Her mother's bed was made, her car was in the driveway, but she was nowhere to be found. Even though Robin was just 8, she decided to first call her mother's work and see if she was there. Her mother worked at a clerical job at the local hospital. When Robin called, they let her know that Sandy hadn't arrived for her shift that day. Robin would then decide to call her babysitter and inform her that her mother wasn't there and she wasn't at work. The babysitter would head over to Sandy's house and call the police to report her missing. From there, the babysitter got the girls ready and took them to school, while the adults jumped into action. When investigators arrived, they didn't note anything out of the ordinary in the home. However, they did note that the garden bed outside of the home had been trampled. Sandy's purse was gone, but a watch she wore daily was home, and her car was in the driveway, just like Robin had noted when she woke up first thing in the morning. Investigators would immediately organize a ground and aerial search, while other officers canvassed the neighborhood and local businesses that Sandy was known to frequent. One of Sandy's neighbors would tell officers the night that Sandy disappeared, they did hear a strange noise coming from the back of the house around 10:50 p.m., but they didn't elaborate. Family, friends, and coworkers would be interviewed by investigators, and polygraph tests would be done. However, days began to turn into weeks, and weeks turned into years, and they weren't getting any closer to finding out what happened to Sandy on that October night. Robin's father would end up coming to Ann Arbor to stay with the girls as investigators searched for Sandy. Robin remembers them going to school every single day, and at the end of school, her running home and running through the doors in hopes that Mom would finally be home. She said the adults in their lives did their best they could to protect the kids from what was actually happening. However, eventually the girls finally understood that Mom was not coming home, and they would have to pack up and move with Dad to Detroit. Investigators do have a suspect. They had a really solid suspect in 1975. Ann Arbor resident Gary Addison Taylor, a known serial killer, was living very close to Sandy's house the year she disappeared. And it is confirmed that Taylor and Sandy did have a relationship. What that relationship entailed isn't clear. But what investigators do know is that when Sandy vanished, so did Taylor. Taylor would be arrested in Texas in 1975, and through his lawyer, they would discover that Taylor had murdered and buried 4 people at his previous address in Onstead, a small town just 30 miles away from Ann Arbor. Investigators were able to recover those remains, however, none of them were Sandy, and when they interviewed Taylor about Sandy, he admitted knowing her, but denied having anything to do with her disappearance. Robin has always believed that Taylor had something to do with her mother's disappearance. Taylor has refused to cooperate with investigators, and despite DNA and additional digs, nothing has brought them closer to Sandy. Robin wishes that Taylor would just speak to investigators and finally give her family some closure and peace. Today, Taylor is still the main suspect in Sandy's case. Robin does want to emphasize that Ann Arbor has never, ever forgotten her mother, and they have consistently investigated her disappearance. The FBI put out new flyers in 2021, and I will have those links added in the comments below, as well as my Sipping on Some Crime webpage. At the time of Sandra's disappearance, she was 33. She had long brown hair and brown eyes. She was last seen wearing a house dress or a blue stretch pants, a white blazer, wooden base sandals with a beige strap, and was carrying a purse. The Ann Arbor Police Department has asked anyone with information in Sandy's disappearance to please contact them at 734-794-6939. I'll be linking the article that I sourced in the comments below, as well as my Sipping on Some Crime webpage with more information about Sandy's case. Thank you for taking the time to get to know Sandy today. And don't forget, every time we share a face, we get closer to solving a case.